Ladies, have you ever found yourself wondering, what should I share and what should I hold back in my relationship? It's a question that might feel as old as time, but let me assure you, it's more relevant than ever. We've all been told that honesty is the foundation of a great relationship, and while that's true, there's a subtle, almost mysterious art to knowing what to reveal and what to keep as your own. And mastering this art, it's a game changer. Here's the thing, men aren't always as straightforward as they seem. Beneath their stoic dating persona, yes, we'll talk more about that later, there's a psychological complexity that craves both connection and intrigue. The problem is, many of us have been conditioned to believe that love means oversharing, that revealing every thought, every insecurity, and every little piece of ourselves will bring us closer to forever. But what if that belief is leading us astray? What if instead the key to deeper connection and mutual respect lies in strategically holding back? Let's break this down together. Imagine two women. One shares everything, her fears, her mistakes, her every thought about the relationship, hoping for validation. The other? She knows how to nurture love while maintaining her mystique. She respects her boundaries and allows her partner to lean into the mystery of who she is. Which woman do you think men find more captivating? If you're ready to discover how to become that second woman, the one who commands respect, curiosity, and devotion, this is your guide. Together, we'll explore the 10 things you should always keep from him, each one designed to create balance, trust, and attraction. By the end of this, you won't just understand what to keep hidden, you'll know why it works, backed by psychology, stoicism, and a sprinkle of real-world wisdom. Let's start with the first thing. Are you ready? Because this one might just surprise you. 1. Your past mistakes and regrets. Have you ever felt tempted to lay your past bare, thinking it would bring you closer to him? Maybe you've thought, if I tell him everything, he'll see how honest I am and he'll love me more. But here's a truth few people talk about. While vulnerability builds connection, oversharing can work against you. Imagine this, you're on a date and everything is flowing beautifully. He's leaning in, captivated by your presence. Then you drop a bombshell, a detailed recounting of past mistakes, regrets, or poor choices. Suddenly, the energy shifts. He's polite, sure, but something changes. Why? Because while he might admire your honesty, his subconscious mind is also processing what you've shared as a potential red flag. It's not about deception, it's about discernment. Men, particularly those who resonate with Stoic dating principles, are naturally drawn to women who focus on growth and positivity. They appreciate someone who learns from her past without being defined by it. Stoicism teaches us to embrace our imperfections without letting them control our present or future. By sharing only the lessons, not the gory details, you maintain an image of strength and self-awareness. Now let's dig deeper into the psychology. Men often want to see the best version of you, not a sanitized, perfect version, but the one who has risen above her struggles. Sharing too much about past mistakes can make you seem stuck in old patterns rather than thriving in your current life. Instead of detailing the regretful choices, focus on how those moments shaped your growth. For example, instead of saying, "I used to date someone who completely destroyed me emotionally, and it took years to recover," you could frame it as, "I've learned the value of healthy boundaries and how important self-respect is in a relationship." Do you see the difference? One statement drags the conversation into the past, the other highlights your evolution. Some of you might be asking, but if I don't share, won't he think I'm hiding something? Here's the beauty of it. You're not hiding, you're choosing what deserves to be shared. Relationships aren't about dumping every thought and experience onto each other. They're about creating a space where both people feel inspired to grow. Holding back certain details isn't about deception, it's about creating emotional safety for both of you. There's also the element of intrigue. Mystery is powerful. When you keep parts of your past private, it allows him to focus on the present, the woman in front of him. Too much information can overwhelm the dynamic, while just enough keeps him curious, engaged, and eager to learn more about you over time. As you reflect on this, Ask yourself, what does my past say about me? Am I framing it in a way that highlights my growth, or am I letting it weigh me down? If it's the latter, it's time to rewrite the narrative. Own your story, but don't feel the need to share every page. Trust me, the man who values you won't need to know every chapter. He'll love the woman you've become. Before we move on, let's take a moment to acknowledge the importance of balance. Holding back doesn't mean being emotionally closed off. It's about cultivating self-respect and understanding what enhances your connection versus what detracts from it. This principle applies to all 10 things we'll discuss, so let it guide you as we move forward. Are you starting to feel the power of this approach? If so, stay tuned for the next section because we're just getting started. Up next, why sharing your insecurities too freely might not bring the connection you think it will. 2. Your insecurities about yourself. Let's talk about something deeply personal, something we all grapple with but rarely admit out loud. Insecurities. We all have them, don't we? That voice in your head that whispers, "You're not good enough," or nitpicks at every flaw. It's a part of being human. But when it comes to relationships, how much of that inner dialogue should you share with him? Here's a truth that might surprise you. While vulnerability can strengthen a bond, constantly sharing your insecurities can have the opposite effect. Picture this. You're on a beautiful evening walk, holding hands and feeling the connection grow. Out of nowhere, you say, "I hate the way I look in pictures," or "I wish I were smarter. I don't know why you're even with me." His instinct may be to reassure you, but over time, these comments can subtly shift the energy of your relationship. Men are naturally drawn to confidence. It's magnetic. Even in Stoic dating principles, confidence plays a crucial role in attraction. Stoicism teaches us to accept imperfections without letting them define us. When you openly focus on your flaws, you unintentionally dim your own light, and he might start seeing you through the lens you've painted. Instead of recognizing your brilliance, he begins to notice the cracks you constantly point out. Let me ask you this. How do you want him to see you? Do you want him to see the woman who nitpicks her every flaw, or the woman who carries herself with grace, despite knowing she's not perfect? Here's the secret. It's not about pretending to be flawless. It's about owning your imperfections while radiating self-assurance. Confidence isn't about having no insecurities. It's about not giving those insecurities the power to dictate your worth. Now let's dig into why this matters. When you frequently share your insecurities, it can put him in a position where he feels he has to constantly reassure you. While he might do so willingly at first, over time it can become exhausting. Instead of focusing on the exciting, joyful aspects of your relationship, the dynamic starts revolving around fixing how you feel about yourself. This isn't fair to either of you. So what's the solution? Keep those insecurities in check, not by ignoring them, but by addressing them on your own terms. Instead of looking to him to validate your worth, work on validating yourself. For example, if you feel self-conscious about your appearance, invest in practices that make you feel beautiful, not for him but for you. If you feel insecure about your skills or intelligence, take steps to grow and learn, not because you have to, but because you want to feel empowered. And when insecurities do surface, share them selectively and in a way that invites connection rather than burdening the relationship. For instance, instead of saying, "I feel like I'm not good enough for you," you could say, "Sometimes I doubt myself, but being with you reminds me that I'm capable of so much more." See the difference? The first comment drags the mood down, while the second creates an opportunity for him to uplift and connect with you. Let's not forget the allure of mystery. When you don't lay all your insecurities bare, it keeps the focus on your strengths and the positive aspects of your connection. He'll appreciate your composure and the fact that you don't let self-doubt take the wheel. Over time, this balance strengthens the relationship because it's built on mutual respect rather than emotional dependency. Before we move on, let's take a moment to reflect. What insecurities are you currently allowing to define your self-image? How can you start reframing those thoughts into something empowering? Remember, the way you see yourself sets the tone for how he sees you. If this resonates with you so far, let's keep the energy flowing. Like this video and comment number 1 if you're loving these insights. Your support keeps us inspired to dive even deeper into topics that transform relationships. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss a moment of empowering wisdom. Trust me, this is just the beginning of something incredible. Next up, we'll explore why guarding your deepest vulnerabilities isn't about withholding. It's about creating a stronger, healthier connection. 3. The extent of your emotional vulnerabilities. There's something incredibly powerful about vulnerability, isn't there? It's the raw, unfiltered truth of who we are. It's what makes us human and connects us on a soul-deep level. But here's where things get tricky. How much vulnerability is too much? How much should you share with him? And how much should remain your own to process? Picture this, you're sitting with him talking about your day and suddenly the floodgates open. You start sharing not just your feelings about your day, but also your deepest fears, anxieties, and emotional struggles. While his first instinct might be to comfort you, there's a fine line between sharing and overwhelming the relationship with your emotional weight. Men often want to be the rock in the relationship, the steady presence you can rely on. But if you overexpose your emotional vulnerabilities, especially early on, it can shift the dynamic. Instead of feeling like your partner, he might start feeling like your therapist. Over time, this can create an imbalance where the relationship feels more like a caretaker dynamic than a partnership. Let me clarify something important. This isn't about pretending to be invulnerable. Authenticity is key in any relationship, but there's a difference between being authentic and unloading every emotional wound onto him. I think of vulnerability as a gift, something you share selectively, at the right time, in the right measure. When you do this, it fosters connection without overwhelming the bond. Why does this work? Men, particularly those with a stoic mindset, are naturally drawn to strength tempered with vulnerability. Stoicism emphasizes emotional resilience, the ability to process feelings without being controlled by them. When you embody this balance, you demonstrate emotional maturity, which is incredibly attractive. You show that while you're willing to share parts of yourself, you also have the strength to navigate your emotions independently. So, how do you navigate this delicate balance? Start by identifying which emotions you need to process alone and which ones are worth sharing. For example, if you're feeling stressed about work, it's perfectly fine to mention it and allow him to offer support. But if you're battling deeper insecurities or past traumas, consider whether sharing them with him will deepen your connection or place undue pressure on the relationship. Sometimes, processing these emotions with a trusted friend or therapist can provide the clarity you need before bringing them into your romantic dynamic. Here's another layer to consider: timing. The early stages of a relationship are often about building trust and establishing a foundation. Oversharing emotional vulnerabilities too soon can feel like skipping steps. Allow the relationship to develop naturally, creating a space where sharing becomes an act of mutual trust rather than a test of his emotional capacity. Let's also talk about the energy you bring into the relationship. Emotions are contagious. If you consistently bring heavy, unresolved emotions to your interactions, it can create a dynamic where the relationship feels weighed down. On the other hand, when you share emotions in a way that fosters understanding and connection, it elevates the energy between you. Imagine telling him about a challenging moment in your life, not as a plea for reassurance, but as a story of resilience. For example, instead of saying, "I feel so broken because of what happened," you might say, "That experience taught me so much about my own strength and ability to grow." This approach not only shares your vulnerability, but also highlights your ability to rise above it, leaving him inspired by your strength. Ask yourself, what do I want him to see when he looks at me? If the answer is a woman who is strong, resilient, and emotionally self-aware, then start embodying that in the way you navigate your vulnerabilities. Share enough to let him in, but not so much that he feels burdened or overwhelmed. In the end, the key is balance. By holding space for your own emotions and sharing selectively, you create a relationship dynamic where both partners feel supported and respected. You show him that while you value his support, you also have the strength to stand on your own. And that's the kind of woman who captivates and keeps a man's heart. Stay tuned as we dive into the next layer of this fascinating journey. Why rushing to share your long-term plans might not create the connection you're hoping for. You won't want to miss this. 4. Your long-term plans too soon. Let's set the scene. You're a few dates in, and everything feels like it's falling into place. The conversations are flowing, the chemistry is undeniable, and you're starting to picture a future with him. But then it happens, you bring up long-term plans. Whether it's marriage, kids, or where you see yourself living in 5 years, you dive headfirst into the deep end of the what comes next pool. Here's the thing. While it's natural to want clarity about where a relationship is heading, sharing your long-term plans too soon can unintentionally disrupt the organic flow of connection. Men are wired differently when it comes to envisioning the future. They often approach relationships in stages, needing time to align their emotions with their thoughts about commitment. Jumping ahead can feel overwhelming or even pressuring, making him question if he's ready for what you're imagining. Why does this happen? It comes down to emotional pacing. Men, especially those with a stoic dating mindset, thrive on balance and intentionality. Stoicism teaches the value of patience and allowing events to unfold naturally. When you rush to reveal your long-term plans, it can feel like skipping the essential steps of building trust, understanding, and mutual admiration. Let's pause for a moment. What does sharing your long-term plans too soon say about you? Often it comes from a place of excitement, or sometimes anxiety. You want to feel secure in knowing that you're on the same page. But relationships aren't about racing to the finish line, they're about savoring the journey. By focusing too much on the future, you risk missing out on the beauty of the present moment. Now, this doesn't mean you should hide your aspirations or avoid serious conversations altogether. The key is timing and context. Early on, instead of outlining your 5-year plan, keep the focus on shared experiences and getting to know each other. Save those deeper discussions for when the foundation of your relationship is strong enough to support them. Let him naturally become curious about your vision for the future rather than feeling like it's being handed to him on a checklist. Let's talk about the psychology here. Men are often drawn to women who exude independence and confidence in their own path. When you allow your actions to reflect your goals, rather than spelling them out, you create an air of mystery and self-assurance. For example, instead of saying, "I want to get married and have kids within the next 3 years," you might talk about the things you're passionate about and what excites you about life. This approach invites him to see your ambition and direction without feeling boxed into a specific timeline. Another important element is adaptability. Life rarely goes according to plan, and relationships are no exception. By showing that you're open to the journey unfolding in unexpected ways, you communicate emotional flexibility, a quality that's not only attractive but also essential for a lasting partnership. Let's imagine a different scenario. You're deeply rooted in your own life, pursuing your dreams, and making choices that align with your values. Instead of saying, "I want us to live in this city and start a family by this age," you share a story about how pursuing your goals has brought you happiness and growth. This subtle shift in conversation allows him to see you as someone who's not only driven but also grounded, a woman who knows what she wants without needing immediate validation from him. And then there's the element of curiosity. When you hold back from revealing every detail of your future plans, you leave space for him to wonder, where does she see herself? How do I fit into her life? This intrigue can create a powerful pull, drawing him closer as he seeks to understand you on a deeper level. Remember, relationships are a dance, not a sprint. By focusing on building a strong connection in the present, you naturally pave the way for those future conversations to happen at the right time. When the moment does arrive, it will feel organic and mutual, not rushed or one-sided. Take a moment to reflect. Are you approaching your relationship with a sense of urgency, or are you allowing it to unfold at its own pace? If you find yourself leaning toward the former, consider pulling back and trusting the process. There's immense power in letting things develop naturally, and the reward is a deeper, more enduring connection. As we continue this journey, we'll uncover even more ways to cultivate a relationship that's built on respect, attraction, and mutual growth. Next, we'll explore the subtle art of avoiding comparisons and why they might be more damaging than you realize. Stay with me. This is about to get even more eye-opening. 5. Your comparisons to other men. Let's talk about a habit that many of us might not even realize we're guilty of. Comparing him to other men. It's an easy trap to fall into, especially when we're navigating past relationships, observing how other couples interact, or trying to figure out if he's measuring up to our expectations. But here's the thing. Comparisons are like tiny cracks in the foundation of your connection. They may start small, but over time, they can grow into something that weakens trust and attraction. Imagine this scenario. You're out for dinner, and he's excitedly talking about something he's passionate about. The conversation is flowing, and the vibe is great. Then, without realizing it, you casually say something like, "Oh, my friend's boyfriend always does," insert impressive thing. You might mean it as a harmless observation, but to him, it can feel like he's being measured against a standard he didn't sign up for. Men are naturally wired to want to be seen and appreciated for who they are. When you bring other men into the conversation, whether it's your ex, a celebrity, or your friend's partner, it can make him feel like he's falling short, even if that's not your intention. Over time, this can chip away at his confidence and create a subtle sense of distance between you. But why do we compare in the first place? Often it stems from a desire to validate our choices. We think, if I can see how he stacks up, I'll know if this relationship is right for me. While that logic might make sense on the surface, it overlooks a crucial truth. No two people are the same, and every relationship is unique. Comparing him to someone else is like comparing apples to oranges. It's not just unfair, it's completely irrelevant. Instead of looking outward, shift your focus inward. Ask yourself, what is it about him that draws me in? What are his unique qualities that make me feel special? By appreciating him for who he is, you create a space where he feels valued and inspired to show up as the best version of himself. This, in turn, strengthens the bond between you. Let's also consider the element of respect. When you avoid comparisons, you communicate that you're fully present in your relationship. You're not distracted by external standards or past experiences. You're invested in what you're building together. This level of focus and respect is incredibly attractive, especially to men who value Stoic dating principles. Stoicism teaches us to accept things as they are, not as we wish they were. When you embrace this mindset, you show him that you see him not as someone to be compared, but as someone to be cherished. So, how do you handle moments when you're tempted to compare? First, recognize it for what it is, a reflex, not a necessity. Instead of vocalizing the comparison, take a moment to reflect. If you're feeling dissatisfied, ask yourself if the issue lies in your relationship or in your expectations. Often the solution isn't about him changing, it's about shifting your perspective. Here's an example. Instead of saying, "Why don't you plan romantic surprises like so-and-so?" you could say, "I love when you do thoughtful things, it makes me feel so special." This approach not only avoids the comparison, but also encourages the behavior you want to see in a positive and affirming way. Now, let's turn the spotlight back on you. How would you feel if he constantly compared you to other women? Maybe it's an ex he mentions fondly, or perhaps it's a celebrity he admires. Even if his intentions aren't malicious, those comparisons would likely make you feel like you're not enough. The same principle applies to him. By eliminating comparisons, you create a relationship dynamic rooted in mutual respect and appreciation. Take a moment to reflect. When was the last time I compared him to someone else? How did it affect our connection? If you've been guilty of this habit, and let's be honest, we all have at some point, don't worry. It's never too late to shift gears. Start today by focusing on his unique qualities and celebrating the things that make your relationship one of a kind. If this insight has sparked a light bulb moment for you, let's keep the energy going. Like this video and comment number 1 if you're loving these tips so far. And don't forget to subscribe for more eye-opening content that will transform the way you approach love and relationships. You won't want to miss what's coming next. In the next section, we'll dive into another subtle but important dynamic: why overloading him with the details of your social circle drama might not be as harmless as it seems. 6. All the details of your social circle drama. The intricate web of friendships, rivalries, and shifting dynamics that make up your social circle. It's a world full of stories, some lighthearted, others complicated. And while it might feel natural to share these tales with him, especially when you're close, there's a delicate balance to maintain. Because let's face it, not all the drama unfolding in your social life needs to be brought into your relationship. Imagine this. You've had a long day and a friend's offhand comment or a misunderstanding has left you feeling frustrated. You come home and immediately unload every detail onto him. At first, he might listen attentively, offering a nod here and a reassuring comment there. But over time, he might start to feel drained or worse, detached from conversations that seem to revolve around problems he can't solve. Men are wired differently when it comes to communication. While women often bond over sharing and discussing their emotions, men tend to approach conversations with a problem-solving mindset. When you bring up social circle drama, he might feel compelled to fix the situation, even when that's not what you're asking for. And when he realizes he can't solve it, or that it keeps recurring, it can leave him feeling powerless or disengaged. The other side of this coin is perception. Men often form impressions of others based on what they hear. If the stories you share paint a picture of constant conflict or negativity within your social circle, he might start to question why you're involved in those relationships. Over time, this can lead to subtle judgments, not just about your friends, but also about how you navigate relationships in general. But let's be clear, this doesn't mean you should avoid talking about your social life altogether. Sharing your experiences and inviting him into your world is an important part of building intimacy. The key is to discern what adds value to your relationship and what might detract from it. Instead of diving into every detail of your friend's latest argument or the endless cycle of gossip, focus on the aspects that are meaningful and uplifting. For example, if you've had a misunderstanding with a friend, you might say, "I had a bit of a rough patch with friend's name, but I'm working through it. It's making me think about how I can communicate better." This approach not only shares what's happening, but also frames it as part of your personal growth. It shifts the conversation from venting to something constructive, allowing him to engage in a way that feels positive and forward-looking. There's also a layer of respect to consider. When you share every unflattering detail about someone in your circle, you might unintentionally damage how he views them. Over time, if the relationship between you and that person improves, it can be difficult for him to reconcile the positive change with the negative image he's been given. This creates unnecessary tension, especially if the person in question becomes more integrated into your lives together. And then there's the question of energy. What kind of emotional tone do you want to set in your relationship? If conversations frequently revolve around conflict and drama, it can create a sense of heaviness that lingers. On the other hand, when you focus on sharing moments of joy, growth, and connection, it uplifts both of you. This doesn't mean avoiding tough topics. It's about choosing which ones truly need his attention and which can be resolved without his involvement. Here's a thought experiment. What would your relationship feel like if you approached every conversation with the intention of building connection rather than venting frustration? Imagine how much lighter and more enjoyable your time together would be when it's not overshadowed by external conflicts. At the end of the day, he wants to see you as someone who brings clarity and positivity into his life, not as a source of unnecessary stress. By being selective about the social circle drama you share, you not only protect his perception of you, but also strengthen the bond you're building. As we move forward, let's explore another critical dynamic: how to navigate the tricky waters of discussing his closest friends or family without creating tension. Stay with me, because this next one is all about mastering subtlety and tact. 7. Your criticism of his closest friends or family. Let's face it, relationships don't exist in a vacuum. Along with your partner comes his inner circle, his closest friends and family. These are people who've shaped his life, stood by him during his struggles, and know parts of him that you're still discovering. It's natural that, at times, you might find yourself clashing with some of them or questioning their influence in his life. But here's where it gets tricky. How you navigate those feelings can make or break your connection. Imagine this scenario. You've noticed that one of his friends is consistently unreliable or that a family member's behavior feels intrusive. You want to address it because, let's be honest, it's bothering you. But if you launch into criticism, even if your intentions are good, it can easily be misinterpreted as an attack, not just on them, but on his judgment and loyalty. Men are deeply protective of the people they care about. Criticizing his friends or family can put him in a difficult position, forcing him to choose between defending them and validating your concerns. This is a lose-lose situation, as it can create tension between you two while also straining his relationships with the people closest to him. But what if your concerns are legitimate? Maybe his best friend encourages behaviors that aren't healthy for your relationship, or a family member crosses boundaries that leave you feeling disrespected. The key isn't to suppress your feelings, it's to approach the situation with tact, empathy, and an emphasis on solutions rather than blame. Instead of saying your friend is a bad influence, try framing it as, I've noticed that friend's behavior sometimes causes challenges for us, and I'd love to talk about how we can handle it together. This shifts the focus from pointing fingers to collaborating on a resolution. It shows that you respect his relationships while also advocating for the well-being of your partnership. The same goes for family dynamics. Instead of criticizing a family member outright, focus on specific behaviors and how they affect you. For instance, instead of saying your mom is way too controlling, you might say, I sometimes feel overwhelmed when specific action happens. How do you think we can navigate this together? This approach invites him to see your perspective without feeling defensive or pressured to take sides. It's also important to acknowledge that his relationships with these people existed long before you entered his life. For better or worse, they've played a role in shaping the man he is today, the same man you're drawn to. By respecting those bonds, even when they're challenging, you demonstrate maturity and emotional intelligence. This not only strengthens his trust in you, but also deepens the respect he feels for your ability to navigate complex dynamics. Let's take a moment to consider what criticism really accomplishes. Often, it's a way of expressing frustration or asserting control. But in relationships, criticism rarely leads to constructive outcomes. Instead, it creates walls and breeds resentment. By choosing understanding over judgment, you foster a sense of partnership that allows both of you to grow together. There's also an element of timing to consider. Addressing sensitive topics when emotions are running high can escalate conflict rather than resolving it. Instead, wait for moments when both of you are calm and open to discussion. This ensures that your concerns are heard without being overshadowed by defensiveness or anger. One of the most powerful tools you have in navigating these situations is empathy. Put yourself in his shoes. How would you feel if he criticized your closest friends or family? Likely it would hurt, even if his concerns were valid, because those relationships are deeply personal. By approaching the conversation with empathy, you create a space where he feels safe to explore the issue with you, rather than feeling like he has to defend himself or his loved ones. Here's a question to reflect on. Are my concerns about his friends or family rooted in genuine issues, or are they influenced by my own expectations or insecurities? Taking the time to examine your feelings can provide clarity and help you approach the conversation with intention rather than reactivity. Ultimately, your goal should be to support him while protecting your own boundaries. By addressing issues with respect and understanding, you can strengthen your relationship without alienating the people who matter most to him. And in the process, you'll show him that you're not just his partner, you're also his ally in navigating the complexities of life. In the next section, we'll explore why keeping track of his actions too closely might not build the trust you think it will, and how letting go can create a stronger, healthier bond. Stay with me, because this one's a game changer. 8. How much you keep track of his actions. Let's talk about trust. It's the foundation of every successful relationship, isn't it? But here's where many of us stumble. Instead of trusting him to show up as the man we believe he is, we sometimes slip into the habit of keeping tabs on his actions. Whether it's subtle, like casually asking, "Who were you texting?" or more overt, like scrolling through his social media with a magnifying glass, this habit might feel harmless, even protective. But in reality, it can erode the very trust you're trying to build. Imagine this: he's out with friends, and you find yourself tempted to send a check-in text or scroll through his tagged photos to see who he's with. On the surface, it might seem like you're just curious, but what message does it send? To him, it can feel like you're saying, "I don't trust you to make good choices on your own." Over time, this dynamic chips away at the respect and freedom that keep a relationship healthy. Men, especially those who resonate with Stoic dating principles, value independence and the freedom to be themselves. Stoicism emphasizes personal accountability and self-control, qualities that men often respect and seek in a partner. When you monitor his every move, it doesn't just undermine his sense of autonomy, it also suggests that your relationship lacks the trust that's essential for long-term connection. But why do we feel the need to track his actions? Often it's rooted in fear. Fear of being blindsided, of being hurt, or of losing control. While these feelings are valid, especially if you've been let down in the past, they can create patterns of behavior that push him away rather than drawing him closer. The more you focus on what he's doing, the less space you leave for him to show up authentically. So what's the alternative? Letting go, trusting him to be the man he says he is. This doesn't mean ignoring red flags or silencing your intuition. It means differentiating between genuine concerns and the insecurities that might be clouding your judgment. For example, if he's consistently transparent and reliable, there's no need to second-guess his actions. Instead, focus on strengthening your own sense of security so you're not relying on external validation to feel at ease. Let's talk about what this looks like in practice. Instead of checking his social media to see where he is, take a moment to ask yourself, what am I hoping to find? If the answer is reassurance, consider how you can give that to yourself instead. Maybe it's by reflecting on the positive patterns in your relationship, or reminding yourself that trust is a choice you make every day. And when doubts do arise, address them directly and respectfully. Instead of saying, "Why didn't you tell me you were going out?" try, "I noticed you were out with friends. I hope you had a great time. I'd love to hear about it." This approach fosters open communication without making him feel interrogated. Here's another layer to consider. Men thrive on being trusted. When you show him that you believe in his integrity, it inspires him to rise to the occasion. He feels valued and respected, which in turn deepens his commitment to the relationship. On the flip side, constant monitoring can make him feel like he's under a microscope, which can breed resentment or defensiveness. Now, let's address a common concern. What if he's hiding something? If you suspect dishonesty, the solution isn't to tighten the reins, it's to have an honest conversation. Building trust isn't about control, it's about mutual understanding. And if trust has been broken, the path to healing starts with transparency, not surveillance. Take a moment to reflect. Am I holding on to control because I fear losing him? If the answer is yes, consider how you can shift your focus inward. The strongest relationships are built on two whole individuals who choose to trust and support each other, not on one person constantly monitoring the other. If this resonates with you, take a second to show your support. Like this video and comment number 1 if you're loving these insights so far. And if you're ready for even more tips on creating deeper, stronger connections, don't forget to subscribe. There's so much more to uncover, and I promise you won't want to miss a thing. Next, we'll explore the delicate balance of sharing your financial independence without making him feel unnecessary. This one's a subtle but crucial dynamic. 9. Your complete financial independence. Let's dive into a topic that's both empowering and delicate: financial independence. In today's world, being financially secure and self-reliant is celebrated, and rightfully so. There's immense power in knowing you can stand on your own 2 feet, whether or not you're in a relationship. But here's where it gets nuanced. How do you balance your financial independence without making him feel unnecessary in the partnership? Men often take pride in their ability to provide, not just financially but in every aspect of the relationship. It's part of how they express love and value. When you emphasize your financial independence too strongly, whether intentionally or unintentionally, it can leave him wondering, what's my role in this relationship? Even the most confident man might feel a bit sidelined if he perceives that his contributions, whether material or emotional, aren't needed or valued. Imagine this scenario. He offers to pay for dinner or surprise you with a thoughtful gesture, and your response is, "I've got it, I don't need help." While your intention might be to show that you're capable, the message he might receive is that his effort isn't welcome. Over time, these small moments can add up, creating a subtle distance where he feels like he's not able to contribute meaningfully to your life. So, how do you navigate this balance? First, recognize that accepting his gestures doesn't diminish your independence, it enhances the partnership. Relationships thrive when both people feel they're bringing something to the table. By allowing him to contribute, you're acknowledging his efforts and reinforcing his sense of value in your shared dynamic. It's also about reframing how you approach financial independence within the relationship. Instead of emphasizing what you can do alone, focus on what you can build together. For example, rather than saying, "I don't need anyone to support me," you might say, "I love that we both bring so much to the table. It makes our relationship feel like a true partnership." This subtle shift in language acknowledges your strength while also validating his contributions. Let's talk about the psychology behind this. Men are often drawn to women who are both independent and collaborative, someone who knows her worth but also values the power of teamwork. This balance creates an energy that's magnetic and enduring. When you highlight your ability to thrive independently but remain open to his support, it shows that you're confident without being dismissive. Another layer to consider is how financial independence impacts decision-making within the relationship. Being financially secure gives you the freedom to make choices based on what's best for you, not out of necessity. This is incredibly empowering, but it's also important to ensure that your decisions reflect the partnership, not just individual preferences. For example, if you're planning a big purchase or a significant career move, inviting his input, even if you don't need it, fosters a sense of collaboration and mutual respect. It's also worth noting that financial independence doesn't just mean being self-sufficient, it also means being generous. When you're in a position of financial strength, you have the opportunity to contribute to the relationship in ways that enhance your connection. Whether it's surprising him with a meaningful gift or planning an experience you'll both enjoy, these gestures show that you value the partnership and are willing to invest in it. Take a moment to reflect on your approach. Are you unintentionally downplaying his role in the relationship by emphasizing your independence? If so, consider how you can create a dynamic where both of you feel equally valued and essential. This isn't about compromising your strength, it's about leveraging it to build something even greater together. Ultimately, financial independence is a gift that allows you to show up as your best self in the relationship. By balancing it with openness, collaboration, and gratitude, you create a space where both you and your partner feel empowered, respected, and deeply connected. In the next section, we'll explore why overanalyzing your relationship and sharing every single thought about it might not create the connection you're hoping for, and what to do instead. This is an important one, so stay with me. 10. Every single thought about the relationship. Let's be real. Relationships have a way of consuming our minds. From analyzing his every word to wondering what the future holds, it's easy to get caught up in the whirlwind of emotions and overthinking. But here's the key question. Should you share every single thought that crosses your mind about your relationship with him? The answer, surprisingly, is no. Here's why. Imagine this scenario. You're feeling a bit uncertain about something. Maybe it's how he responded to a question, or perhaps it's a moment when he seemed distant. Instead of processing those feelings internally or taking time to reflect, you immediately bring it up. At first, he might respond with reassurance, but over time, Constantly dissecting every moment can become overwhelming for both of you. It shifts the relationship's energy from ease and joy to analysis and scrutiny. Men often experience relationships differently than women. While women might find comfort in discussing feelings and dynamics frequently, men typically process things more internally. If you're constantly sharing every doubt, question, or observation, it can create a sense of emotional overload. He may start feeling like he's walking on eggshells, worried that every small action will be analyzed and discussed. But don't misunderstand this. Communication is vital in any relationship. The issue isn't about sharing, it's about oversharing. When you voice every fleeting thought or concern, it can dilute the impact of the truly important conversations. It's like crying wolf. Eventually, he might start tuning out, assuming your concerns aren't serious. So how do you strike the right balance? Start by filtering your thoughts. Before bringing something up, ask yourself, is this a passing feeling, or is it something that genuinely needs to be addressed? Often, what feels urgent in the moment might not seem so important after you've had time to process it. Give yourself space to sit with your emotions and decide whether they stem from the relationship or from your own fears or insecurities. When you do need to address something, focus on clarity and timing. Instead of overwhelming him with a barrage of small concerns, choose moments when you can have meaningful, focused conversations. For example, if you're feeling unsure about how he's prioritizing the relationship, you might say, "I really value our time together, and I'd love to make sure we're both on the same page about how we're balancing everything." This approach is constructive and invites collaboration rather than criticism. Another essential element is trust, both in him and in the relationship itself. When you feel secure in your connection, there's less need to overanalyze or seek constant reassurance. Trusting him means believing that he cares for you and the relationship, even when everything isn't spelled out. And trusting yourself means knowing that you're capable of navigating challenges without needing constant validation. Here's a powerful thought. The energy you bring into your relationship shapes its tone. If your focus is on dissecting every detail, the relationship can start to feel like a puzzle that's never fully solved. But when you approach it with confidence, playfulness, and curiosity, it becomes a source of joy and growth. By choosing to let go of unnecessary analysis, you create space for deeper connection and shared experiences. Now, let's address the allure of mystery. Men are naturally drawn to women who are confident and self-assured, those who don't need constant validation or reassurance. When you keep some of your thoughts to yourself, it doesn't mean you're hiding anything. It means you're respecting the natural rhythm of the relationship. It allows him to wonder about you, to lean into the curiosity that deepens attraction. Take a moment to reflect. Am I sharing my thoughts to build connection, or am I seeking reassurance? If it's the latter, consider how you can cultivate that sense of security within yourself. Relationships thrive when both partners feel free to be themselves, without the weight of overanalysis dragging them down. By choosing what to share and when, you demonstrate emotional intelligence and self-awareness, qualities that are incredibly attractive and essential for a strong, lasting bond. You're saying, "I trust us, and I trust myself." And that trust is what creates the foundation for a relationship that feels secure, fulfilling, and full of potential. Now that we've explored all 10 ways to maintain your power and grace in a relationship, it's time to reflect on how these insights can transform your approach to love. Remember, the most captivating relationships are built on mutual respect, trust, and the balance between sharing and holding back. If you've made it this far, you're already on the path to creating a relationship dynamic that's magnetic and deeply fulfilling. Thank you for being part of this journey. If these insights have resonated with you, don't forget to like, comment, and share this video with someone who needs it. And of course, subscribe to join a community of women committed to mastering the art of love and connection. Here's to building relationships that inspire and empower us all. Let's take a moment to reflect on everything we've explored together. Relationships are a beautiful dance of connection, respect, and shared vulnerability. But as we've uncovered, there's an undeniable power in knowing what to keep to yourself. These 10 principles aren't about hiding or withholding. They're about creating a space where trust, curiosity, and mutual appreciation can thrive. When you navigate your relationship with this balance of openness and mystery, you become unforgettable. You're the woman who radiates confidence, knows her worth, and draws her partner closer not through demand but through allure. You're the partner who respects both herself and her relationship enough to cultivate a dynamic that feels effortless and inspiring. By holding back certain things, your past mistakes, insecurities, or every single thought about your relationship, you allow both yourself and him to breathe, to grow, and to lean into the connection naturally. This is the foundation of Stoic dating, where strength, independence, and emotional wisdom create bonds that stand the test of time. But let's not stop here. This isn't just about what you hold back, it's also about what you give. Give him your trust, your joy, your full presence. Share your dreams in ways that invite collaboration. And most importantly, give yourself the gift of self-assurance. Remember, how you love and respect yourself sets the tone for how he will love and respect you in return. As you step into this new understanding of relationships, I want you to carry this with you. Relationships aren't about perfection. They're about balance. They're about knowing when to speak and when to listen, when to share and when to hold back, and when to let go of control and trust in the natural unfolding of love. If this journey has sparked a shift in how you see yourself in your relationships, let's keep the momentum going. Like, comment, and share this video with someone who needs these insights. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more tips, stories, and advice that will transform the way you approach love and connection. Thank you for being here, for investing in yourself, and for exploring the art of building relationships that inspire and empower. Here's to you, your growth, your strength, and your capacity to create a love that feels as good as it looks. Until next time, take care and keep shining.